Well, welcome everyone to our Data Dev Day, June the 20th. We're very excited to have you here. We have a jam-packed session store for you today. We're very excited about our guests, our community members, and we'll get into it here. But before we do that, we have to talk about our lawyers. We have a slide from our lawyers. Make sure we're going to be talking about roadmap things on this call. We're going to be talking about future-looking things. And as we are a publicly traded company, please make purchasing decisions based on things that are available today. So now that we have the lawyers off our back, here's today's agenda. We have an interview with the co-founder of MotherDuck, a version of DuckDB, if you guys haven't heard of that. Very excited for that interview with Ryan. We have how to automate Tableau Pulse, one of our newest products, and we're very excited that Vorapul's here, all the way from Singapore, or Thailand, I'm sorry, to present very early in the morning for him. So we are thankful for him there. Hacking Tableau 101, building a couple different tools. You'll hear about our new VizQL data service that we're very excited about launching in this upcoming year here. And we're very excited and happy for you to be here. So thank you so much. So we'll jump into it here. So without further ado, my name is Kevin Glover. I'm a product manager and developer advocate for Tableau. I've been at Tableau a long time. You've seen my face if this is not your first time at one of our virtual Data Dev Days. And I'm very excited to be here talking to you today. And with me is Ryan Boyd, co-founder of MotherDuck. Welcome, Ryan. Thank you for being here.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. This is the first time interviewing someone kind of outside of the community and bringing them in. So we're very excited to have you here and doing a new format. So you're my guinea pig here as we kick this off. So my first podcast host.
I feel very special because the Tableau community is always looked at as being one of the best communities out there in data. So many folks love Tableau and love the community that helps each other out. And so very happy to be here.
Yeah. And I feel like that's like what you guys have started building as well. I don't feel like there's a lot of these kind of close-knit communities inside of the data world specifically, or just technology in general. And I feel like Tableau really brought that with the data fam. As we branded it a few years back. But yeah, the DuckDB community and the MotherDuck community is kind of that same kind of thing. So we'll jump into it. Like, Ryan, why do you like building developer communities?
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's rewarding is basically what I think. I like helping other people. I like seeing other people be successful. Building developer communities, is kind of like programming in a way, right? It is about making things easier for people, right? It is about making developers successful so that they can go home earlier at night, spend more time with their family. My most rewarding moments ever in sort of building developer communities have been when companies are acquired. Actually, this is actually a Salesforce acquisition. So I'm sure you guys can relate. But the folks at ManyMoon, it was a tool, like a social project management tool years ago, were acquired by Salesforce, and they basically said, hey, if it wasn't for you and your team and what you did, building around Google Apps, like we wouldn't have gotten noticed, we wouldn't have gotten acquired. And it's stories like that, and I have a half dozen of them that like really just kind of warm my heart, that we're able to help other people be successful, be more successful than they would have been without the community.
I agree. I completely agree. So let's go back a little bit for you. What's been the journey? I see that you've been at Google, you went to Databricks, you've been at so many of these big Neo4j. What got you started? And personally, I know it's a little side tangent. I'm from the Rochester area, so that you went to RIT, so go Tigers. Yeah, so let's hear about your journey.
Yeah, I mean, my journey is, certainly not unique, but it is interesting. So I started, working at RIT. When I was at RIT, I was working like 30 hours a week. Basically, I found someone that would pay me really well. I think I made more part-time, than in my first job. And, got to do a lot of interesting things, everything from system administration to development. But then I graduated, and it was 2002, and it's right as the dot-com bubble completely burst that year. The stock market hit its lows that year, and no one was hiring. That was the day and age where you would send in a resume by email and such, or meet the recruiters on campus. But I ended up actually getting a job for the central IT department at the university, and was very lucky to get that, because a lot of my the folks that I'd worked with, the folks that I went to school with were not finding jobs. But I was hired as a developer, and with the eventual goal of sort of re-architecting the central web environment there. And that's kind of where I first got interested in data. At the time, I was using Jasper reports, which was something new at the time, backed by Oracle databases, and doing a mixture between sort of operational analytics, like what errors are our applications having, and business monitoring. So like looking at credit card transactions for the university, emission applications, et cetera, and producing reports and emailing those out. And, it was very early days from a BI perspective. But then I decided, like, I needed to get the heck out of Rochester, needed to get away from the snow, moved to San Francisco.
Same.
I moved to San Francisco without a job, and with an agreement that I would work remotely for RIT for 3 months exactly. And then, when that was done, I started at Google. And I kind of accidentally fell in developer relations. I started Google in a spam operations group, kind of analyzing AdSense spam. But let's just say I didn't enjoy the work that much. It was very repetitive work. And luckily though, they tried to poach me from the developer relations group, which was only like 8 people at the time. Going forward, like over the next 8 years that I worked at Google, like we went from 8 people to 200 plus folks on the developer relations side. So I got to see a lot of growth there, and got to work on a lot of different teams. And it really was kind of like startups, because every product I worked on was new, up until the end. So I was always kind of kicking off developer communities for everything that many of the Google projects, frankly, that you don't remember anymore. Things like Google TV, and working with the different major movie networks and TV networks on Google TV, to Open Social and all of that. But I ended up focusing largely on Google Apps, the Google Apps Marketplace, Google Drive, and then Cloud. And so when I left Google, I was leading DevRel for Google Cloud. But I had a good stint at working directly on BigQuery, which is where I met one of my co-founders at MotherDuck, was many years ago, working on BigQuery. It's been a great journey. I decided, like, when I left Google, I wanted to do something completely different. I spent 9 months as a product manager for architectural software, which was a spinoff of Google X. But then I went back to data. I found data being a lot of fun. Went to Neo4j. The connections between data is something that I still strongly believe that we don't take advantage of today. The the tabular format just rules because everyone has spreadsheets. But I still really believe that like we need to spend more time looking at the connections between data, exploring data as graphs. I think it's just much more natural way that our brains work, and that's really what drew me to Neo4j and kept me there for so long. But yeah, I mean, times ended, and I went on to Databricks for 2 years, and really what we're doing now with MotherDuck is sort of the opposite, right? It is let's not look at this large scale distributed compute like a Spark, for instance, at Databricks, but like computers have grown so much over the last 10 years. Like the EC2 memory size was 60.5 GB of RAM, the max size of memory when I was working on BigQuery. And now it's 25 terabytes, right? So you have huge improvements on the compute side, but we were still using the same old software. And so that's why we started MotherDuck, is that, hey, the software can change now that the compute has changed. Back in 2013 or earlier, you needed to have distributed compute to analyze your data, any reasonable amount of data, because the computers weren't as powerful. Nowadays they are, and that's really what got us into DuckDB.
Yeah, I kind of love the story. It's so similar to Tableau in a lot of ways, DuckDB, and like basically self-service database, which is like you're not going after the big ones. You're not throwing hardware at this. It's just like, how can I make data easier to use locally? And I felt like Tableau is that way in a lot of ways. And some of the research, Tableau has Hyper under the hood. We've purchased that company. And some of the research coming out of Munich, it seems like is brought into DuckDB as well. There's some fun overlap in that community too. So what drew you? You've been at totally different size companies. Like, why start something? Why go from the rocket ship of Databricks to the startup world?
So I think that there's two things here. I had helped grow DevRel at Google from this 8 people to over 200. A large organization has a bunch of unique challenges, right? Like I got to work in these small teams kicking off these new projects, which was kind of like startups. That's great. But as an organization, we needed to standardize our hiring practices, standardize job descriptions, job ladders. We had developer advocates, developer relations engineers, tech writers, community managers, program managers, and each had their own specific responsibilities that they needed to meet to climb the Google ladder. And there was a lot of focus on that. And I actually consider that an important part of my career. It was a lot of energy that I put into 4 or 5 promotions over the years at Google. But because these job descriptions were so specific, this means that people could do the right thing for the product they were working on, but it was still the wrong thing for their careers. And I didn't like that disconnect. I didn't like how, there was actually one person on my team in particular who later went and founded his own startup. But, I sat silently in the promotion committee for him because I wasn't allowed to talk as his manager. And they kept on debating over things that he didn't meet in the official job description, even though I would say he was the top performing person on our team at the time. But he didn't get rewarded for it, and he ended up leaving. And that's kind of like a sad thing that happens in big organizations. And frankly, I don't know a great way around it, because you do need to standardize on job descriptions. But Google also kind of took this approach of reorging a lot, which was challenging. when I worked for most of my time there, it was a set of people with different roles focused around a single product area. So, in Google Cloud DevRel, we had our own tech writers and our own community managers and advocates and engineers all working, together to make Google Cloud successful, and even breaking down into individual products. But they decided to flip that matrix so that all of the folks who were developer advocates basically had one reporting chain. All of the folks who had, tech writers had one reporting chain. And it just created this disconnect that didn't really make sense. It was probably good for the climbing the Google ladder and promotions, because you're working every day with these people who have the exact same job description. But that just was bad for the product, in my opinion. They flipped it around again after I left, but that was kind of my main reason leaving. And then with Neo4j and Databricks, I got away with having people with multiple roles. So we officially did have some different job descriptions for advocates and engineers and community managers. But we didn't have that strict adherence to the job descriptions in order to get rewarded. And that was great. With MotherDuck, I'd say largely it is about, I have this entrepreneurial spirit that I've always had, right? Like, I got to exercise that at Google, by doing all the different teams. But starting things from the ground up is what I like to do. And I think that there's a lot that we can change about the way that we build and market products to technical audiences. I think there's often disconnects in marketing groups between who they're marketing to and what the audience actually is. Like, there's not enough empathy there. And larger organizations really stifle creativity with sort of standards. This is how things are done. This is how they're always done. Whereas MotherDuck, we have this idea of flexibility and being unorthodox as two of our core values. Unorthodoxy is what we call it, an unorthodox way to talk about unorthodoxy. But that's really, that entrepreneurial spirit is great. And the other part is really, starting a company is about seeing the world in a different way than the status quo, and helping the world get there. So we saw hardware getting much better in the cloud and our laptops. We saw bandwidth getting better, faster, cheaper, and data sizes being actively analyzed were not growing as fast as we predicted. When I worked on BigQuery, I thought everyone would have exabytes of data that they're looking at. The reality is, people look at data the last week, the last month, maybe the last quarter, and the rest of the data just sits there. And
mostly on CSV files and Excel sheets.
CSV files, Excel sheets. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what rules the world.
Yep.
And we at least want to make the data literate folks have more powerful tools, but also tools that are easy. And we saw DuckDB as this super efficient, fast SQL engine, but also they had an extreme focus on ease of use. They didn't care. I mean, they cared about the standards enough to make the standards the standard way work in most cases. But they've also reinvented a lot of things with SQL. Like, you can say, from table name instead. You can just ignore the word select star. If you just say from table name, it knows what you mean. You can say group by all and not list all the column names. Anyway, we thought the time was right for a new style of data warehouse, and that's why we're building MotherDuck.
Fantastic. So you said Oracle in the beginning. I know you've got some obviously experience with Neo4j, with Spark, obviously now MotherDuck or DuckDB. What's your favorite? What has been some of your favorite tools to work with, and why?
I mean, I think for me, the favorite tools are largely the ones that do focus on the developer experience, right? I loved how Mongo focused on that, for instance, as a database. And the I have to say DuckDB is probably near the top, and this is, I know it's a biased viewpoint, but the way that they have focused on that experience, the CLI, we're still trying to push them on the better install experience, but that's another thing. And the idea that it's just like, hey, let's make things simple. You can access data in DuckDB from an HTTP URL as easily as you can from S3 or from a dozen list of other cloud object stores, or your local machine. It can be a CSV, it can be a Parquet, it can be Iceberg, it can be Delta now. There's so much flexibility there. And I think that flexibility is what helps people. And we actually built this thing called Fix It on top of it as well. And we've open sourced a machine learning library on Hugging Face that really looks at SQL queries and optimizes SQL queries. And so I'm not a believer that you should be able to type in like English language queries. I think that doesn't work unless the data is really, really well defined. Like, the catalog is there, everyone understands what the key metrics are and things like that. But I do believe you can have things like our Fix It, which, you make a typo or use the syntax from MySQL instead of using the Postgres syntax, and it just automatically corrects it. So we open sourced the machine learning library or model in order to for other people to be able to do that as well. And we like giving back. So that ease of use, and unfortunately many of the things in the data world are not that easy to use.
Yeah. If anyone was at the Snowflake and Databricks summits in the past couple of weeks here, I have seen a record number of ETL vendors in those expo halls. It was kind of mind blowing how many ETL tools are out there right now. Which is I think you got a good segue here. So DuckDB, MotherDuck is a very easy to use database. You can very easily and recommended run it on your laptop to analyze and use that storage. Like, where do you see DuckDB and MotherDuck being utilized in this AI wave, right? So it's more than just data that you want, but we need to train these things on larger corpuses of data, which is not exactly what you guys are going for. So where do you see them sitting in this?
So I'd say, this goes back to what is we say 99% of users and what 99% of users have. Maybe it's not 99, maybe it's 90 or 80, but a good chunk of users don't have data that requires a large distributed architecture, even when they're building AI models. And there's actually been a lot of things that have come out around companies that have built models like Olama and things like that on local machines that perform very close to what the big models are doing at much less cost, right? So we'll still have like the huge. There's actually a guy I met at one of my nephews or nieces' birthday party who does the infrastructure for OpenAI and this super large scale machine learning, the LLM building exercises. And, I don't think that it's needed for most people. I think, yeah, sure, there's going to be a half dozen companies out there that do that and spend, millions or billions of dollars on NVIDIA cards. Thanks. My NVIDIA stock thanks them. But at the same time, I don't think that that's what the vast majority of people need, right? Like, they can use those tools that are built by those other people with these extremely large data sets. Most people don't have that extremely large data set. So yes, you can use DuckDB to build your models. Data is the key to AI, good, clean data. But I don't think it's all about volume. And with MotherDuck, I love that we can bring the different parts of the community together, the data scientists, the analysts, the engineers, because DuckDB has something that all of those folks love. If you're a data scientist and you really love working in data frames inside Python, awesome, you can do that, and it can access your data in MotherDuck, access your data, in your DuckDB databases, backed by the same, warehouse. That's gold for that audience, right? They can use the tools they already know and love. Whereas like the analyst can use the same data with SQL. And so, we also can work more directly with the AI wave. It can be used as an engine to power RAG for LLMs, one of our more popular blog posts. DuckDB has vector search. We're working on putting that into MotherDuck as well. So there's a lot of overlap, but yeah, that's kind of what I see.
So this is a good segue. So where do you see the are this community blends in with the data analytics engineering space, where the rise of the DBTs of the world and building this model in very semantic ways where we can capture them in code and commit them. Where do you see the data analytics engineering space heading in the next 5 to 10 years? Let's say 5.
Yeah.
We haven't seen, every 9 months things are changing, or even less than that. So let's just say 5.
And you're, I'm going to give my answer for this, but I'm looking at the clock. You're going to have to ask me one more question where my answer is going to be a little bit more positive after this. But, I see a focus on sort of a simplified modern data stack. Like if you look at the Matt Turk diagram, like even just looking at the logos it brings a headache, right? And not to be doom and gloom, but the contraction in VC investments that has happened, post pandemic, I think will lead to a lot more consolidation, which will naturally be simplifying. A lot of these companies will be bought up by the bigger players, or the best ones will win, basically. And hopefully that means a less confusing data stack, and for the average person, right? Yes, you need a handful of tools to work together in data, but having to understand 24 or 36, it's impossible.
Yeah, I agree, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. Even in the AI space, these maps just keep getting so large. So I really appreciate you being here, Ryan. I'll give you one more or 1 or 2 minutes here. What are you working on? What do you want people to know? I will say that Tableau just released a MotherDuck connector into the Tableau Exchange. So for those out there interested in using MotherDuck and Tableau together, you can go get the connector on the Exchange. But I'll leave you with what do you want? We'll do the hot wing style or hot one style, and tell us what you're working on and what do you want people to know?
I mean, we changed the headline on our website to say "Ducking Simple Data Warehouse." We like having fun. We like making data fun for others. I think tools like Tableau can totally help with that, and that's why we built, the connector, and launched it on the Exchange. We have a large community of folks, both on user side and the partner side. The partner side, I think there are over 50 integrations that we have with MotherDuck. Again, I hope that simplifies over time, but I also love the data community and the people that are building these tools, so it's kind of a double-edged sword. But what we're really working on is just making the data warehousing experience simple for analysts. I think a lot of the larger companies end up focusing on the IT admins and focusing on the people that are closer to the people signing the checks, because at the end of the day, they're looking for multi-million ARR deals. We, on the other hand, really want to focus, at least for a long while, on the average analyst experience and making it ducking simple. So we launched GA last week. We had a SF Gate article about our ducks roaming the town last week, and we had protest signs and all of the big event protesting against this focus in the valley on extreme size data that no one actually has.
With
and
ducks,
so yeah,
with ducks at the helm, which
ducks
is
at
was
the
fun.
helm. Yeah, let's make it fun. Let's make it exciting. Let's bring that joy back to working with data. And I think we can. Especially with communities like this in the Tableau world. People are creative. People have fun. People do awesome things. So yeah, we're this data warehouse for both the data teams and data people within organizations. We have like $10,000 in startup credits for startups. But we're also, backing data apps, and we've seen a lot of great things done there in terms of people building applications for end users that are backed by MotherDuck, and our model works, and tenancy model works super well for that. So anyway, I just encourage people to check out what we're doing and check out how it integrates with Tableau. Send us feedback. We have a Slack community. We have support folks who are pretty awesome. We got the head of customer love from Looker joined us. She was very well known in the data community as building this organization that really focused on the end user. And so now she's helping people use Tableau with MotherDuck. It's full circle there, I guess. But anyway, so thanks for the chat, and thanks for
Love it. Yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks, Ryan, again. I really appreciate your time and being here. And we will talk soon. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Have a great rest of the day. This is an awesome event.
Thank you, Ryan.